Hello, Sunny. और मैं कैमरा ऑन कर लूँगा।
और कौन-कौन 2-3 लोग लाइन पे बोल रहे हैं, टेक्स्ट ऑफ एवरीबॉडी। मतलब किसी को वेट की जरूरत है, आप स्टार्ट करें। Colonel, can you tell me who are the other people in the queue you saw?
It is still giving some notification.
You said 2 more persons are in the queue for joining.
Yes, 3 more persons were in the queue. Now I have joined.
कौन-कौन who are those 3?
No, it doesn't show the name, sir. It doesn't show the name.
Oh.
Maybe Jai Kumar and what?
Rohit to in-house.
Rohit is the party. But anyhow, 15 minutes time we can.
But it is still saying you are still in the lobby until you are let in.
कुछ issues from our side.
सभी जरा पूछ ले अनुराग से या रोहित से, कुछ इशू है जो हम लोग की तरफ से है कि our time is precious.
हेलो राहुल सर।
कर्नल सर।
Yes,
हेलो।
please.
हाँ सर, आप अपना स्क्रीन प्रेजेंट कर सकते हैं अभी।
अच्छा नहीं, बट मेरे को ना एक इसमें your meeting audio and video are paused while you are on a call. When you are ready, you can resume your audio and video settings, but you will still be in the lobby until you are let in. So this thing is coming. I am not able to see the main screen. आपकी ऑडियो आ रही है।
सर आप मोबाइल से ज्वाइन हो?
हाँ, मैं मोबाइल से ज्वाइन हूँ।
तो आपका
ये भी प्रॉब्लम है।
इधर के सेटिंग में कुछ इश्यूज है।
नहीं मोबाइल
मैं आप दोबारा मुझे एक बार वो भेजेंगे लिंक ज्वाइन करने का। मे बी इट विल फिट इन नाउ।
ओके सर।
ओके ओके।
सो मोबाइल में है कि लैपटॉप पे चाहिए, ऐसा है?
हाँ अभी आ गया। करेक्ट। ठीक है। ठीक है, तो मैं अपने इधर से ही चलाऊंगा तो वो आगे मूव करेगा ना प्रेजेंटेशन। ठीक है, शेयर कर दिया, शेयर। ठीक है, इसमें बताऊं कहां पर है प्रेजेंटेशन? आ रहा है? बट मेरे पास वीडियो नहीं आ रहा है अपना, मतलब सेल्फ वीडियो नहीं आ रहा है। Apex का। ये दिखाई दे रहा है आपको फेस? अच्छा, मोबाइल से मैं, आप बोल रहे हो कि मैं यूट्यूब में आ जाऊं से? नहीं तो ओके, आई विल स्टार्ट। हाँ,
Colonel Devrani,
यस सर,
uh,
यस सर।
so welcome to this important session of this value-added program. And now it has so happened that you are the opening batsman of the today's seminar. And we have tried to keep a sort of structured program in lineup also, but the first person who was supposed to speak on the topic of Disaster Management Act, there is some problem, so he will join once the technical issues are resolved. So all those who are online, we start with Colonel Rahul Devrani, then we take the next lecture by Dr. P. Anand, then Madam Bhavamati Balsubramaniam, then Mr. Subhankar Mishra, then Samim Molla, and then Mr. Pradeep Paswana. So I request all the participants, speakers to keep their system ready, and we'll try to keep time. And if there is a spillover, if we are not able to finish for some reason, on Friday 5th, 3 to 4, we have 1 hour session for question answer. Here we will try to see the lecture, whatever is missed today. So let us start the beginning. Best wishes to you. And today we have Dr. Hemant Haldornekar, who is our medical doctor, and he's expert on medical as well as biological emergency management. And you know Dr. S.K. Ghosh and myself, we have already been interacting with you through various sessions. So
Yes,
thank you very much, and I now hand it over to Colonel Devrani. Thank you.
shall I start, sir?
Please start.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone, to the esteemed panel, first of all, and all my colleagues and friends who are online, who are sparing time to listen to what I have to say. The topic for my presentation is Rapid Disaster Need Assessment for a rapid assessment for resilient recovery. Now, you will feel that there are too many new terms which are there in the viewfoil. Actually, this whole lecture is part of post-disaster needs assessment, PDNA. Before I come to the presentation proper, I'll just take 1 minute to tell how I am connected with this topic as such, or subject as such. To my lucky this thing, I was posted with the National Disaster Management Authority as Joint Advisor Rehabilitation and Recovery. I was there for good about 3 years plus, and I'm still serving in the army. So that is a bit of the background how I got connected to this field. I did my MBA in disaster management and a whole lot of other courses and certificate courses and health emergencies in large populations in the United States, also nominated by the Ministry of Home Affairs. So that's a bit about what I did in disaster management. So let's come to the presentation proper. This thing is suddenly the Murphy's law has set in. It is not moving ahead or back.
Yes, sir.
Now it's not moving ahead or back. Somehow it has got stuck. Yeah.
Now it is moving, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Just a small caption. Even with all our technology and inventions that make our modern life so much easier than it was once, it just takes one big natural disaster to wipe all that away and remind us that here on Earth we are still at the mercy of nature. This was said by Neil deGrasse Tyson. He is a very big philanthropist from the United States of America, spent billions of dollars in philanthropy and for the benefit of mankind. Now let us understand what is the term resilience and what is the term recovery and how are they interconnected with each other. When we say resilience, what do we mean? And when we say recovery, then what does it actually mean? Now, resilience and recovery are two approaches to prepare for a major adverse event such as a disaster, that they are relevant to continuity and emergency management. Resilience is for the design of structures, facilities, infrastructure, equipment, processes, and systems which need to be resistant against the disaster. However, recovery is always a plan. It has nothing to do with design structures, facilities. It is a plan to collect resources that can be used to restore functions of each sector. Now, what are those sectors? Those sectors can be health, transport, communication, law, order, your basic supply chain management. So if they are interrupted, then we have a plan which is called as a recovery plan. Now, what are the basic principles for resilient recovery and reconstruction? They include non-structural measures, socio-economic measures, institutional and leadership frameworks, and disaster management is more or less on prevention rather than controlling it altogether. Now, there is a term called as rapid assessment. What does a rapid assessment mean? So in a PDNA is actually a activity which is spread over a larger period of time. Let's say the PDNA starts after the initial recovery has happened post a disaster, which usually focuses on the life as well as life of human beings, the livestock, animals, and thereafter the entire damage assessment or the needs assessment is carried out. So what does a rapid assessment mean? It is a quick evaluation of a disaster, public emergency of an impacted area. Now, what are we evaluating? That we will subsequently see. Now, there is something called as damage, loss, and needs assessment. Now, the total effect is which has happened in the disaster is the damage which has happened and the losses which has occurred. So when we add up the damage and the losses, that is the total effect that the disaster has taken, the toll which it has taken place. The rapid assessment or the estimate damage, losses, and needs for reconstruction and recovery. The disaster impact heavily on private sector, particularly the manufacturing sector. So we are addressing the financial part and we are also addressing the human lives. So when we are addressing both these things, then we are saying the damage and the losses. Now, what are the key requirements for this? The key requirement is rapid needs assessment, rapid damage assessment, and lastly, the resource assessment. What all resources do I have to contain, to come out of the initial disaster which has happened? Now, types of assessment: rapid assessment, which is happening within hours of a disaster; preliminary damage assessment, that takes place for the damage based on properties, the percentage of damage, and there is something called as a combined verification or a joint preliminary damage assessment, which includes inspection by detailed inspection by specialized people who go on ground and then take a stock of the situation and tell what all damage has actually happened. This is usually done by the central teams which go to a particular disaster site. Now, what are the objectives of RDNA, Rapid Disaster Needs Assessment? To create a better understanding of objectives and scope of disaster assessment, increase awareness in how to conduct assessment, demonstrate the importance of analysis and interpretation, and familiarize with the assessment tools. These are the objectives basically which we come out with for the rapid damage needs assessment. Now, RDNA survey is the information which is collected from the various domains of the society, which have an effect on the victims, the community, and the society. Now, rapid response mechanism is also used as a planning tool for carrying out this survey and information collection. Now, what are the core elements? Now, core elements are, how do we say that 20% disaster has happened, 30% disaster has happened, 20,000 crore rupees has gone down the drain? How do we say that? We say that if we have a baseline information, unless we have a baseline information, we will not be able to carry out assessment of the damage which has happened or the extent of damage which has happened. The assessment of disaster effect, the disaster impact, and the recovery strategy are based on the baseline information which is already available to us. Now, basically, the rapid need assessment is done to find out or to take what the community actually needs. Now, once the community is able to tell that the requirement is specific, I'll just give an example. In Kerala, you can't give a thing which is not required by that community. What is required by a community in North India cannot be cut and paste to a community which is in South India. So the requirement of a specific of a community will be very specific. It will not be same everywhere. Now, based on this rapid needs assessment, the long-term, mid-term, and short-term rehabilitation and reconstruction strategy is worked out. Based on that, a damage assessment and recovery process is also done side by side, because unless you know what is the money or the financial part involved, you will not be able to do the short-term, mid-term, and long-term rehabilitation and recovery. Assessment must be also collated with other departments, other facts on ground. It should not be done by a single person. Now, purpose of RDNA is search and rescue, assessing pinpoint location and secondary threats.
Colonel, it is very interesting. We are all enjoying, and you have entered into very good areas. Can you just give me an idea how much more time you need for completion?
Sir, I have got total 30 slides. I have finished 15 slides.
I think we have suggested all the participants that based on our time limits, we have requested everybody to finish in 12 to 15 minutes.
Very well, sir. I'll finish in another 5 minutes.
How much?
5.
So I will request you, otherwise you find it very interesting, we can have a separate lecture program, and you can do justice. So right now we have time limit, keep it in your mind and then please continue. Okay?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I'll wind it up in another 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. That will be too good.
So the basic purpose of RDNA was search and rescue, identify and pinpoint any secondary threats which are there, the facilities and status that need support, and these communities which also need support. Now the purpose is to achieve at common minimum standards, facilitate quick decision making, predictable and coherent approach, objectivity, professional response, cost-effective approach, credibility of assessment and recovery strategies, and financial approach. All these are the purpose of RDNA. They are the fallout of RDNA activity. Now, what are the parameters? Baseline data, what used to be there, situation, what has happened. These are the questions that the team should ask themselves. What has happened? What assistance is required? What resources exist? What are the shortfalls? What are the existing primary and secondary hazards if they are available or they are there? So those will actually find out what are the risks which are there for the community. Now, the assessment processes are incident, rapid damage assessment. The district administration prepares the team, the state disaster assessment, again the team, and then the joint damage assessment, which is done at the central level. Now, this flow chart basically gives how does the actual assessment is being done, which each sector and who all are responsible for collection and collation of data, and then finally a memorandum is given by the state government to the central ministry for seeking the financial help. And this is the flow chart. You have the NDMA, the Rapid Assessment Manager, and various other field teams which carry out the assessment at field. General idea is to be roughly right than to be precisely wrong. Now let us keep this general idea in mind and then do the damage assessment. We have already done this. The last 3 words are most important: build back better. We do all this exercise of PDNA, the RDNA to just do a build back better, which is also part of the entire exercise. We have one assessment report. There is a recovery strategy in place. The resource mobilization can be done better, and the country-led implementation mechanism for recovery is also there, and it provides an outline. Basically, build back better is also part of the Sendai framework. Now, the entire process is for the infrastructure, the economics, cross-cutting, which is environment, gender, other disaster risk management, productivity, social health sectors. And why is it important? We have already seen why is it important. Plans and procedures, this is more academic, nothing much about it. Then life safety information, persons, fatalities, these are the forms which are made. How does the entire information flow? So these are the forms: the status of lifeline transportation, gas, electricity, water, sewer, fire, police, city halls, EOC. EOC is the emergency operation centers, public works, homes, businesses, bridges, country buildings, utilities, emergency management, law enforcement, appraisal office. These are the people who are to be part of the central teams or the state teams, the public works, healthcare, volunteer organizations. Rapid assessment forms are preliminary damage assessment forms, which create an overall picture on what all resources are actually available for the community from the state. NBSB was a small topic given to me. NBSB, though it is not much related, but in the long-term recovery, yes, nature-based social prescription is also done in the post-disaster need assessment. In the long-term recovery, for the betterment of the society, it engages with the nature to improve the mental and physical well-being of the people who are stricken by the disaster, to address issues like stress, anxiety, depression, and other chronic illnesses. Same NBSB, how does it affect your physical and mental health? 2-3 more couple of points. Again, same thing, repetitive. It is more or less psychological and deals with the mental and physiological needs of communities. Like John D. Rockefeller said, I have always tried to turn every disaster into an opportunity. The secret of crisis management is not good versus bad, but it is preventing the bad from getting worse. I've finished, sir, within time. Thank you so much for the patient hearing. And in case of if people do need to know more about the RDNA, RARR, and PDNA, I've given my email ID and the mobile number. Please feel free to contact me. I'll be more than happy to share more of information what all I have. Thank you. Thank you once and all.
Colonel, thank you very much. I think it was very informative, very useful, and I think you have brought in a lot of topics in a very short time. I request participants to give your points or comments or observations or any questions. We'll wait for a minute. If somebody wants to flag a point, welcome, most welcome. I think discussion is the best part of any seminar.
Correct, sir. Correct, sir. Correct. Good discussion and knowledge sharing.
So, but any questions about how they will ask?
They can ask in chat box or they can unmute themselves.
Chat box is visible to you?
Something has come, chat box.
So participants can unmute their system and then they can raise the point. They can speak out the point.
Otherwise, at the end, we'll have another 5 minutes discussion point from each of you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. ठीक है, sir. That
Okay,
will be better.
it may also happen that sometimes the point reach randomly in the minds. So keep those points with you and absolutely no restrictions. At any time you raise the point. You don't have to formally wait for the point. Once the lecture session is over, you can raise the point even for the previous lecture. So can we move on to the next lecture now? Next. Dr. Anand. Dr. P. Anand. Can you take him on camera?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you, Dr. Anand. Your
Yes,
system
sir.
ready? Your system ready?
Yes.
It's a little bigger.
The camera is not telling.
That much only we can see.
Sir, my screen is visible, sir.
1 second. Is it okay? Dr. Anand, perfectly all right?
Sir, you can switch on your camera.
Can you switch on your camera, please?
He's sitting inside
One
here.
Are you sitting inside Trombay, DRC?
No, sir. I am in Mysore. I'm from Mysore.
Mysore.
Oh, you are from RMP. You are from
Yes.
RMP?
Yes.
Okay, good. Welcome. Hope the weather is good in Bangalore and Mysore area. And you don't face water problem there?
Mysore, no, sir. Not yet.
No problem. Good. So can we begin your speech now?
Yes, sir.
And I will just request, you have already heard that we have structured it time-wise. So
Yes, sir.
if you can keep it to 12 to 15 minutes, that will be most welcome.
Yes, sir.
So welcome now. Start your seminar speech on preparedness against biological emergency management
Emergency.
in India. Your topic.
Yeah.
You know,
A
Dr. Hemant Haldwanekar, a
Yes, sir.
very
I know.
renowned expert in this subject, is sitting here. We have
Yes, sir.
especially requested him to sit particularly for your session.
Okay, sir.
So, please.
Good afternoon again, everybody. So today I'm going to talk about the preparedness of biological emergencies. My topic will cover introduction, types of biological threats, bioterrorism, organisms of interest, and part of bioterrorism include agroterrorism, and what are all the safety regulation existing in India, and what are all the managing capacities or procedures being followed, and with my conclusion, I will end this topic. So introduction to the biological emergencies, why we are talking it in the seminar is India is vulnerable to biological emergencies because of its geoclimatic differences, a large population, low healthcare spending, poor awareness of biosecurity, insufficient infrastructure, and porous borders. So for a biological emergency, we should have a greater understanding of the impact of the factors that are necessary for the emergence, development of strengthened surveillance system that can mitigate the human sufferings and death, and to the development of immediate therapeutic advances to tackle the emergencies. So what are all the factors which influence the emergence of the diseases? Either it be a natural or a bioterrorism one. They are poverty, malnutrition, increased domestic and global connectivity, population migration, social practices, prevalence of immunosuppressive diseases, unplanned urbanization, deforestation, and change in the agricultural practices like mixed farming. As per the data available, 60% of the infectious diseases and 70% of the emerging infections of human are zoonotic in origin. What are all the types of biological threats? The type 1 is a naturally occurring infection in human, animals, and agricultural infestation that sometimes going out of hand in the form of epidemics. The second one is infection arising from the accidental release of pathogens to the environment from the research laboratories and other things. And third one is the possible outbreak caused by deliberate weaponization of dangerous pathogens that affect humans, animals, and crops. Examples are anthrax, botulism, pandemic influenza, plague, smallpox, tularemia, viral hemorrhagic fever. So what are the type 1 is the naturally occurring infection. The naturally occurring infection is broadly classified into respiratory viral, arboviral, and bat-borne viral infection. Respiratory, which we encountered recently in the form of COVID-19, is severe acute respiratory syndrome. Influenza H3N2, it was prevalent very recently during December to February in India this year. Avian influenza. Avian influenza is even today an epidemic in different pockets of India, like in Andhra, Kerala, we are getting again and again. And anthropod-borne infection, dengue, chikungunya, Cassonor-Farage disease, monkeypox, and Zika. Cassonor-Farage disease is nowadays is doing a wreak havoc in parts of Karnataka, which the government of Karnataka has issued a warning for the people. Bat-borne diseases, Nipah, which is exclusive to Kerala, Ebola, and severe fever with thrombocytopenia, which is being encountered in every part of the India now. So when we talk about the biological emergencies, the first and foremost comes is the bioterrorism. So biological agents are ideal to be used as a weapon of mass destruction because they require relatively less complex technology, widely available raw material at low cost, and can be disseminated easily. So what is an ideal microbe which can be used for the as a bioterrorism agent, as a biological warfare? An ideal microbe is virulent, highly infectious, highly lethal, ease of production, stable in environmental condition, can be easily disseminated, and lack of readily available cure. The last line signifies the sufferings which we encountered during the COVID-19, because we didn't have a medicine, we didn't have a vaccine for that thing. So everything after the emergence of the infection, it was invented and the lives were saved. Approximately 40 biological agents meets the above criteria. And now the newer branch of science, genetic engineering, which makes the organism more virulent and toxins, which can be produced very easily in the laboratories. As you are aware that COVID-19, the genetic sequence which started the infection mutated more than 200-300 times to become more and more virulent, and it continues to spread and stay in the environment because of its genetic mutations. So according to the Center for Disease Control classification, the agents which can be used as bioweapons are categorized into category A, category B, and category C. The category A is easily disseminated and it gives a high mortality and a major public health impact. Example for that is anthrax, which everybody encountered, sent through post boxes or postal letters in different parts of US, and botulinum and hemorrhagic viruses. The second category B comes as moderately easy to disseminate, and moderate infectivity and mortality is there. It comes Coxiella burnetii, Brucella species, and food and waterborne agents. Category C is the emergent pathogen could be endangered for mass dissemination. That is the viruses which are spread through bats and other things. So what are all the psychological implications of biological weapon? So the biological weapons are mainly utilized for spread, creating panic among the people and to vent their ire against the existing government or the administration. So they mainly causes a horror, anger, panic at terrorists, at government, are both attribution of arousal symptoms to infection, paranoia, social isolation, demoralization, and loss of faith in social institution. Even today, we come across the news telling that few families, out of fear of the COVID isolation, they still didn't come out of the house. And such reports are also, we are getting it from different parts of India now. Then a small point about the agroterrorism. Agroterrorism, food is important for everybody in the world. So biological agent targeting their massive crop production to create an artificial famine is a part of the bioterrorism. Agrocrime is an unlawful act or omission concerning animals or animal product that violate legislation and has a detrimental effect on animal health. Example is foot and mouth disease, rinderpest, potato beetles, Newcastle disease, mad cow disease, wheat rest, rice blast, corn blight. The last three things was developed as a part of a biological weapon during the Second World War by countries like Germany, Russia, Japan, and even United States. What are all the safety regulations in India to tackle these emergence of biological infections or bioterrorism? We have a biosafety rule in place, and we have a biosecurity rule in place, and it is defined under the Environmental Protection Act 1986, implemented by Ministry of Science and Technology and Ministry of Forest, Environmental and Climate Change. So when there is a public emergency, biological nature, what is a public? We have to be sure that we have our emergency supply kit ready. Check local TV radio station internet for official information like how dangerous it is, what illness you might get, and where to get medicine and where to go for medical help shelter. Always do what doctors and officials tell us to do. Be patient. People who have been exposed to should quarantine themselves. Everyone should practice cleanliness and good hygiene. How to tackle the bioterrorism? There are 4 methods: preparedness and rapid response, public health infrastructure, risk communication to ease the public concern about the diseases, to make the people aware of the action that needs to be initiated by themselves, partnership building. So what are all the preparedness activity which needs to be done is the main and important is the disease reporting. So the report of the sudden prevalence of a new illness noticed in a locality should be reported to the public health authorities. It will help in further analyzing the causative agent and the pathological sequencing of the genome. And disease surveillance, once it is reported by the people, the concerned district surveillance officer appointed in each and every district should start his surveillance at the mode of spread, the severity of the illness, etc. The epidemiological model of the disease is then reconstructed by the district surveillance officer to predict its prevalence and its longevity, and centralized repository for diagnosis. As you are aware that the viral sequencing for COVID, it was designated at a few places initially, but later extended to different locations, covering almost 40 centers in India. Even today, we have used it for the latest thing, emergence of the new variety some 6 months back. And the role of the scientists and industry experts has to be encouraged, and the researchers have to develop the medical measures to counter the pathogens. which can be scaled by the industry experts, which was exactly done during the COVID, because the Covaxin is a vaccine which is made by our local Indians and manufactured on a mass scale by giving it to a industrial sector. And public health infrastructure. So going from the bottom to top, the basic infrastructure is we have to build the capacity building of the workforce, and we have to increase the competency of the workforce by educating them or giving them information about the new illnesses and new viruses. And information and data systems should be put in place to analyze the spread and the infectivity and the dissemination capacity of the viruses, and the organizational systems and the capacity to be strengthened to tackle the public health emergency. The essential capabilities comes next, which is in the form of surveillance and the behavior of the viruses which has come, and the lab capacity to be augmented and extended. We have to create a treatment path in the form of hospitals, critical care. As you are aware that the COVID-19 has exposed our shortness for oxygen, and after that everybody were encouraged to set up oxygen plant, and with that we could be able to sustain the second wave of the COVID viruses. And last and most important is the public health response, the panic among the public to be alleviated through the social media and prompt information to them through social media and news channels. So in conclusion, to tackle the biological terrorism, we should have a strong and strengthened disease surveillance network, which should detect the timely disease outbreaks in their locality and report to the national level. And there should be a coordination among the ministries, because it involves, any emergency involves, apart from the concerned ministry, we have to take the help of other ministry in the form of construction. In the recent COVID form, we have constructed many new hospitals, and mobilization of the people from place to place, and quarantine of the people in the huge areas, providing food to them and providing all essential need to them. It requires coordination among the ministries. And we have to encourage investment in scientific research, enforcing and updating our biosafety guidelines. And we have to formulate a policy on bioterrorism. And we have to formulate policy on agricultural import and export, which is very much in need of this hour. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. Nice lecture. Very well covered. Only you could have spoken a little more on how to suspect a bioweapon, because most of the biological things are even present naturally. So there are some pointers to, that it is something unnatural and it is a bioweapon. Either it could be, more severe form of the same disease, or, a disease which is not seen in that geographical area has now suddenly erupted.
Okay. That I
Those
just
kind of
consolidated, telling
pointers.
them. That consolidated and told that any new abnormal appearances of illness in the locality should be brought to the notice of the district surveillance officer. The surveillance officer will work on that, sir.
Yeah. Any point from the participants? Most welcome. Any point, any question, any comment, any suggestion? Dr. Anand, thank you very much. I think I would say it requires very deep expertise, but I found it very useful on bio and medical emergency management. Now
Yes,
we
sir.
move on to the next speaker. Next speaker is Madam Bhamati Balasubramaniam. She is already online. Can you take it? Can you take her on camera? Madam, can you unmute yourself and switch on your camera?
Dr. Anand, you can stop sharing.
Dr. Anand, you can
Yes.
disconnect your sharing.
Yeah, sir, I'll do it.
Okay. Now we move on to the next speaker. Madam Bhamati Balasubramaniam, most welcome. You have been very regular and we always found you actively participating in all the programs, all the sessions. So most welcome, I hope. We are trying to do justice to this course and your topic is very, very relevant topic. I have worked in disaster management for some time, and these are the topics which are the biggest challenge all over the world. Is gender issue. Are you on?
Yes.
Okay. So these are very, very important topics, and I would also say this is a very lateral thinking. I mean, we have not included this topic in our normal sessions, so it will be a great knowledge sharing that you sort of. I just don't call it seminar lecture. I will call it a normal lecture. So most welcome. We begin now. Our IT person will help you sharing the screen. You unmute yourself, madam. Please unmute yourself.
I think she is unmuted. There is
Sides.
One second.
We are not able to hear, madam.
Are you able to hear us? One second. Mother, you are not audible. Hello? Chachi?
You raise your hand, madam. We are not able to hear you. Yeah, she is able to hear.
Ma'am, you can unmute yourself.
Please unmute yourself. There is an unmute option given. Sunny, help karo.
No, ma'am, you are not audible.
उन नंबर से फोन करो.
तेरे पास मैं बात करूं.
फोन नंबर है. Somebody is sitting beside her.
Sir, tell him to pick up the phone. Pick up the.
हाँ. कल को शेष पे दो.
Bhamati madam, can you pick up the phone?
We are giving a call to you. If the mobile is by your side, please take the call.
She escaped it somewhere. I forgot it. You also attended course. What profile participation? Discussion.
Madam, do you suggest that we wait for some time? In the meantime, take the next speaker?
Ma'am can typing it.
Some chat box you can see, but they are also she will not do it.
ये आवाज किसकी आ रही है?
Give me Shubhankar Sharma.
Hello.
Madam will request you to organize yourself. We'll come back to you maybe another 10 minutes time. And we move on to the next because we have to keep track of the time also. So is it Mr. Subhankar?
Yes.
Uh,
You can hear me fine?
1 second. Now you are going to speak on
Yes.
NDMP and its implementation. Okay.
Yeah.
So one second. 1 second.
Sir, you can switch on your camera.
Give me a minute.
Bhamati madam. Bhamati madam, can we move to the next speaker and then come back to you? Okay, thank you. We will be back to you because this issue is very important. We are not going to miss it at any cost. Okay. All right. So, Mr. Subhankar Mishra.
Right.
Okay. You are in Delhi?
No, in Bhubaneswar.
So,
Odisha, yes.
Can you switch on your camera? Is it on?
It is switched on, but
he's from myself.
Nice.
I have switched on if it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can.
we can speak.
We begin.
Okay.
You are on NDMP, okay?
Yeah.
It's a very
Hello.
lively topic.
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon. So I'm going to present on the National Disaster Management Plan. This is a very small overview given the time constraints. So I'll just start. So disasters are the reality for India. It's a very vast country and it's vulnerable to various natural hazards. So floods, earthquakes, cyclones, droughts, and landslides among them. And they pose significant threats to lives, property, infrastructure, and basically to effectively prepare for and respond to and recover from those events. India has the National Disaster Management Plan, the NDMP. And this presentation is supposed to explore the NDMP, probably provide its key objectives and some of the implementation strategies and the importance of building a disaster resilient nation. I think as we talked, so there are a few known disasters in India. So one of them is the floods. These are the most common disaster that we have. These are generally caused by overflowing rivers and heavy monsoon rains. The next are, of course, earthquakes. They pose significant threats, but they pose significant threats in specific areas only. And then there is cyclones. And Odisha is no alien to cyclones. So Odisha gets cyclone almost every year. And it absolutely wreaks havoc in like coastal areas. Then there are droughts, which are basically a recurring challenge in several regions, and generally it impacts the agricultural sector. And there are landslides also, and recently we have heard in the news about the landslides, particularly prone in hilly areas, and they disrupt transportation, they cause casualties, and they destroy houses as well. Additionally, the NDMP also covers droughts, cold wave frost, and the chemical, nuclear, and radiological risks and fire risk. And we have covered a bunch about chemical disasters and nuclear and radiological risks in our course itself. So what is NDMP then? So it's a very comprehensive approach on how to tackle basically disasters, and it covers the entire thing. So from proactively reducing the risks as well as to efficiently recovering from disasters. So everything in between is also covered. And it basically aligns with international framework like the Sendai framework for disaster risk management, and which is also like a global agreement promoting disaster risk reduction efforts. And this NDMP basically shows India is part of that, and it contributes to the global effort of building this resilience. We'll just look at a little bit on objectives of NDMP. So there are 4 objectives specifically. One is the risk reduction, and preparedness is the other one, and then the response and recovery. So disaster risk reduction specifically identifies and assesses risks, and then taking proactive measures to minimize their impact. Then there is preparedness, which involves developing plans, conducting drills, and making sure that we have essential resources available to us all the time. And then response requires immediate action during disasters and just after disaster, and so that we minimize the damage and also save lives. And then the recovery is to definitely go back and build infrastructure in the communities that was lost, and then in a way that is more resilient to the future disasters. And that goes in the principle of building back better. So how is it implemented? So NDMP here is implemented through 4 bodies basically. And the apex body is National Disaster Management Authority, which is headed by the Prime Minister himself. Then for national level planning and coordination, it generally develops the policies and the guidelines for disaster preparedness, response, and recovery. And it coordinates among various ministries and departments and allocates resources also for disaster management activities. Following this is the state disaster management authorities, which is DMS, and they basically mirror the NDMA, but at the state, and they are led by the chief ministers, and they are responsible for state level implementation of NDMA guidelines in state. But somehow our states are also geographically variously located and they suffer different types of disasters. So it's the state's duty to make sure that we develop state specific disaster management plans. And it's also another job is to coordinate further in the chain with the district and the local authorities. The next comes is district disaster management authorities, which are DDMS, and these are specifically led by the district collectors. They coordinate the activities within the district, and they also implement the preparedness measures at the local level. And the final and the most important part of this tree structure is basically the village disaster management committee. These are the people who actually make it work. These are the people who actually play a vital role in disaster preparedness and response. And they specifically make sure to conduct awareness campaigns, identify vulnerable population, and mobilize resources during disasters. And this particular structure is very coordinated approach across all levels of government, from national to the local action. And for effective implementation of NDMP, all the 4 are required. Just to make sure how important collaboration is, so our NDMA, which is the apex body that coordinates with various ministries, and because that is important. And then some of the examples of the ministries that are involved is Home Affairs, Health and Family Welfare, and Disaster Response Force. And National Disaster Response Force is, of course, a specialized force for disaster response operations. And then the next one is the building management. I just added a specific slide because they are that important and they are very crucial. And these consist of representatives from the village community itself, and they conduct awareness campaigns to educate the villagers about disaster risk and mitigation. And specifically, they identify vulnerable areas within the village, which is more important, so that the resources can be targeted towards them, and then mobilize the resources during the disaster that happens. And I will just come back, but the next slide, I think after 2 slides, I will be talking about it anyway. So what are the challenges that we have in NDMP implementation? I have identified like 4. And one of the first one is resource constraint. Specifically, what we have is a financial human resource constraint are definitely most likely limited. And so it's better to make sure that we target and focus our attention towards the important and vulnerable population. The next step is capacity building and like training and building capacity for the government officials as well as the communities. It's very important because they are the people who will be taking it forward. And next one is ensuring community participation, and this requires participation across all the stages, risk, like from risk assessment towards recovery, they are all required. And furthermore, like the climate change is happening, and that basically increases the frequency and intensity of all the disasters that we have covered, floods, cyclones, and droughts, and famines, everything. So continuing that, however, it's not all bleak. So what we have seen is the NDMP working, and specifically we see, I can vouch for Odisha state. We get thousands of, I think we get cyclones a lot more normally. And this has led to early warning systems. We have improved building codes now. We have community preparedness drills. And I think people who have witnessed Odisha through NDMP and our state, and through local community engagement, I think our entire from the early warning system to assessment to the recovery has been very fast and very formalized. And that is a success story that we build on, and that is the success story of NDMP itself. Just to highlight the conclusion, so NDMP is definitely a critical framework for disaster management. It outlines a comprehensive approach for covering all the aspects. And specifically, it requires cooperation among the central government, the state government, the district authorities, the local communities. And this collaborative effort involves specifically investing in disaster risk reduction. And the more we prevent the risk from happening is the more we save lives than after. And it includes improving early warning systems, improving building codes, and community awareness is the most crucial part of this one. And the next is enhancing preparedness, of course. So if the disaster happens, what should we do? So we should conduct drills more often. We should stockpile our essential supplies, and we should develop contingency plans. These are all part of NDMP anyways, and I think we are working towards it. And the last is building back better. And so rebuilding infrastructure and communities in a way so that they are more resilient to the future is the way forward. That is what has been happening, at least where the goal is. Might not have been 100%, but I think the goal is towards that to make sure it has a long-term sustainability. And only through collaborative effort across all the scales, across every citizen, we can only build a safer future, which is going to see more and more disasters as we go forward, including the disasters that we have covered in the stage 1 course and the stage 2 course. So with that, I would like to thank for the opportunity for presenting today.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Shubhankar Mishra. Actually, I want to thank that you have covered this topic and well within the time limit.
Thank you.
Basically, you have touched the subject, which is the backbone of disaster management.
Yes.
And it is so vast, within a short time, you could try to cover it. Only the new aspects of NDMP 2019.
Yes.
You could have touched upon a little bit. Anyhow, within we will expect that later on we have a total lectures from you on this NDMP further. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any comment?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Shubhankar, nice.
Thank you. Thank you again.
And most important is, look, in disaster management, time is very important, and that you have very nicely done. So thank you very much. My compliments on that. Can you unshare?
I have unshared already, I think.
Thank you. So we move on to the earlier lecture, which was sort of postponed due to some technical issues. So can you come back to Madam? Mr. Sameem Mullah, are you connected? Audio visual? Mr. Sameem Mullah. अनम्यूट करो आप उसको.
Looks like you switch on your
Unmuted.
Please unmute yourself. Please unmute your system, laptop or mobile, whatever.
from the
Mr. Sameem, We need to hear you. It's not audible.
It is.
He has already shared his screen.
Screen has come, but Zoom is, but the camera is also not on. You could have talked.
Again, it's come.
Correct. Hello, Mr. Molla, we could see you, but can you speak?
Mute.
Hello. Hello.
Lot of time,
इसने unmute भी किया था.
but camera is switched.
Can you please unmute Mr. Sameem?
Hello. 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 Swim sir. Myself, Sunny Prajapati from HB IIT. Sir, you can unmute yourself because I am saying that you are not unmuted. Sir, below there is a button, stop video off and mute. You can click on that. I am sending you a request also. Basically now your slide is visible. Kindly you can stop sharing the screen. Afterwards you can share.
Please unmute yourself.
Hello. You can go to your WebEx application now. Stop share your screen. Now you can unmute yourself.
Ask critical.
Now you can enter. You have not unmute yourself. Below there will be stop video के बाजू में सर हो रहेगा ना unmute का बटन. क्लिक करेंगे आप. हाँ. ऑडियो नहीं आ रहा सर.
नहीं किया था।
हाँ उस पर क्लिक करेंगे एक बार कुछ और. सर आप लोग वो वीडियो बंद करेंगे.
दोबारा ऑफ करके ऑन करने के लिए बोल।
हाँ वीडियो कॉल करेंगे सर. आप आपका स्क्रीन दिखाएंगे मोबाइल पे. वीडियो कॉल कर.
Good afternoon, sir. So just I'm sharing my presentation.
Mr. Pradeep,
Sir, good afternoon. Am I audible?
audible, but can you switch on your camera also?
Yes.
Okay, welcome to this program. You were in Hyderabad somewhere, Mr. Pradeep?
No, I'm from Bahadurgarh, Haryana.
From
Bahadurgarh,
Haryana. Yes.
Bahadurgarh.
Hello.
So what is the temperature there nowadays?
Nowadays now become hotter. It starts.
Okay, and
Summer is
which
going
is
to
the
start.
nearest nuclear power plant?
Request आपको accept करनी है.
I think at Fatehbad there is one nuclear power plant. Fatehbad.
Where?
Fatehawad. Gee, okay.
Right, but that is
Uh,
around
One से try किया तो
50 or 160 kilometers.
Gorakhpur is talking about. Right?
Oh, but I think the
Gorakhpur is
present
in-
plant
yeah, yeah.
nearest to your place is Narora.
Sorry?
Is it not Narora power station which is closest to your location now?
meeting number से join कर सकते हैं आपको meeting number.
Yeah, let him
Narora
need
power
to check.
plant? Narora nuclear power plant?
Bulandshahr.
Bulandshahr?
Bulandshahr is also far away, around 200 kilometers.
Okay, okay. ठीक है, चलो. So can we start now your lecture?
Yeah, sure.
So welcome, and you have taken a very fundamental topic. I think
Yes.
everybody will find it very, very interesting. This is the DM Act and its status in India.
मोबाइल पे
So
open किया.
we'll start now. So
So is my
Okay,
screen
please.
is visible? Sorry, sir, is my screen is visible?
yes, very much visible.
No, sir.
Very much
Okay.
visible. Okay, please
Thank-
start. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. First of all, giving me that opportunity. So I took this
Welcome.
topic, Disaster Management Act in 2005. So I believe because it is a legislation in India, and one must understand about the requirements and why this Disaster Management Act has been formulated in India, what is its constituent, and how it has been implemented, and what is the status in India. So, so here all the definition terminology has
Google
also
Chrome
been
open
given.
करना.
First of all, from the introduction, the Disaster Management Act 2005 was made effective from December 23 for the effective management of disasters for the matter connected therewith or incidental there. So about that content, so it contains 11 chapters and 79 sections. Including chapter that is preliminary chapter, the National Disaster Management Authority. In chapter 3, from section 14 to 24, there mentioned about the state disaster management authorities. Chapter 4, section 25 to 34, district disaster management authority. Chapter 5, measures by the government for disaster management. That is local authorities. 7, management. Chapter 8, National Disaster Response Force. In chapter 9, finance, accounts, audit, funds, if we can say, that has been talked. Offensive. Chapter 10 has been introduced. Or chapter 11, that is miscellaneous from 61 to 77. So very important to know what is disaster. Definition means a catastrophe, mishap, calamity, or grave occurrence in any area arising from natural and man-made causes or by accident, results in substantial loss of a life or human suffering or damage to, and destruction of property, damage to, or degradation of environment. Of nature or magnitude so as to be beyond the coping capacity of community of that affected area. Also, disaster management has been defined as a continuous and integrated process of planning, organizing, coordinating, and implementing measures such as prevention of danger or threat of any disaster,
Joining
mitigation
with
or prevention of any risk of disaster, capacity building, preparedness to deal with any disaster, prompt response, assessing the severity or magnitude of the effect, evacuation, rescue and relief, and rehabilitation, reconstruction. So moving towards what is the objective for Disaster Management Act 2001? Major objective was the Act aims to establish an efficient disaster management system in the event of natural and man-made calamities. This legislation empowers central government to declare all or proportion of the nation impacted by the disaster and to develop preparation for mitigation the disaster risk, consequences and effect. This act also gives the federal and state government the authority to create various authorities at respective level to seek out such management in the event of disaster response. It covers other things like capacity building, relief measures, and mitigation methods.
Yes.
Moving towards the National Disaster Management Authority, NDMA. So here the members, the DM Act mandates the creation of NDMA, for which our Prime Minister of India will be the head. Apart from the chairperson, it consists of other members, at most 9, as the central government. 9 members include vice chairperson, which would be designated by the chairperson. The term of the members would be 5 years. The authority would meet as and when required by chairperson. And the authority can also constitute an advisory committee consisting of experts in the field of disaster management, make various recommendations on different aspects of disaster management. Now, what are the functions and duties of Disaster Management Authority has also been defined in the Act. First of all, it is for creating disaster management policies, approving national plan, approving plans from other central departments and ministries, establishing standards for state agencies, ministries and departments, coordinating the application and execution of the disaster management plan, to suggest money for mitigation, fundraising, to assist other nations suffering from comparable calamities, and should also take additional steps for disaster preparedness, mitigation, prevention, and capacity building. It also established rules for the National Institute of Disaster Management's operation. So under this section of the DMA, it is responsible for laying down guidelines to be followed by the state authority in drawing of the state plans. Here, National Executive Committee, as per Section 8, so is established to assist the national authority in fulfilling its duties. The National Executive Committee comprises various members, including the Secretary to the Government of India, that is responsible for Ministry of Department Housing, Disaster Management, and serves as the chairperson. The Chief of Integrated Defense Staff or Chief Staff Committee. The secretaries to the Government of India in the relevant ministry or department are also part of NEC. Now, moving towards the function and duties of National Executive Committee, it acts as a body responsible for coordinating and monitoring disaster management, putting together the national plan for national authority approval, monitoring how national policy is being implemented, lay down guidelines for preparing disaster management plans by different ministries or department of Government of India and state, to promote education and awareness of disaster management, and among other things, carry out any other duties that national authority may assign. Keeping track of how national plan and other plans created by central government departments are being implemented. The National Executive Committee can also constitute one or more subcommittees to help effectively discharge its function. So now, moving towards the State Disaster Management Authority, that is SDMA. So under section 14 of this legislation that requires all state governments shall create SDMA, and according to section 22, State Executive Committee is responsible for creating State Disaster Management Plan, carrying out the national plan as defined. It consists of following members: state authorities, ex officio chairperson is the CM of the state or the lieutenant governor in UT. Other members must be proposed by the chairperson of the state authority, not exceed 8. One of these nominees to serve as a state authority vice chair. And the chief executive officer of the state authority also a chairperson of the state executive committee. So under section 18, the functions and the duties of state SDMA has been defined. Establishing the state's disaster management strategy, approval of the state plan and other departments' plans, establishing the rules for several state departments, coordinating the state's disaster management plans implementation, and fund for mitigation measures are advanced. Examining the state's various department growth strategy, review the steps the state department takes for preparedness, capacity building, and mitigation, and provide any required directives. So another is like in section 25, district DDMA, District Disaster Management Authority, so has been defined. It consists of the collector, DM, or deputy commissioner of the district would be as an ex officio chairperson. Local authorities elected represented would be the co-chairperson, district authority, police superintendent, chief, medical officer of the district. State government will choose maximum 2 more districts level. In section 44, National Disaster Response Force has been mentioned. That includes provision for establishing NDRF to respond to the disaster that threatens our country effectively. National authority oversees, directs, and controls the NDRF. The command and the supervision of NDRF rest with the Director General of the National Disaster Response Force appointed by the central government. So in section 46 to 60, the central government constitute a fund to be called the National Disaster Fund for meeting any threatening disaster situation. So here, National Disaster Response Fund, grant provision by any person, institution, National Disaster Mitigation Fund for mitigation projects after disaster, the state government to establish Disaster Response Fund and Disaster Mitigation Fund at the state and district. Every ministry and department of central and state government will make provision for funds to carry out activity set on its disaster management plan. This is all about an overview for till our 60. Here first I want to discuss about the status of Disaster Management Act in India. So the DMA has made a significant progress in improving disaster management in India. The Act has established MDMA and SDMA, DDMA. They oversee disaster management at the national, state, and district level. However, some specific example of progress that has been made in implementing the DMA. The NDMA has developed a national disaster management plan. It outlines the roles, responsibility. SDMA has developed a state level disaster management. So these are the tailored to the specific need of each state. DDMA have developed district management plans. Early warning system has been established for many natural disasters. Disaster response capabilities have been improved. This is through the training of the personnel and procurement of equipment. Disaster relief and rehabilitation programs have also been implemented here in India to help those affected by disasters. So, however, in section 51 to 57. So offenses and punishments has also been discussed where one can see punishment with a fine and even the sentence to jail has also been provided as per the type of offense. So this is a bit institutional framework, how this work, where the central government is the governing authority that established the National Disaster Management Authority. From their National Executive Committee has been formed. From central government or state government also prepare their State Disaster Management Authority SDMA, where state executive committees are there, along with district disaster management authority has been formed. In district administration, panchayat and municipalities are also being a part of that. So this is the framework for DA. Thank you, sir. That's all about silent features for DMA 2005.
Thank you, Mr. Pradeep, for doing it within time. Now I ask Dr. Nand Kumar, sir, to give some remarks.
Sir.
This was an excellent lecture. I must compliment you, primarily because almost all aspects of DM Act were covered by you in this brief time. It would be an impossible task. And in the recent disasters that we have been reading about in the newspapers, we see that NDRF in the forefront and they're doing an excellent job. So in my view, NDRF, as the success of NDRF is the index of the success of NDMA. Now here I have only one question, not exactly a question, a doubt. How do we ensure that at the district level, the response force has the same capability as NDRF?
Sir, at district level, chaired by our deputy commissioner. So whatever the responsibility has been defined, because I myself participated in one of the drills that has been conducted near Bhadurgarh, that is in Jhajjar, where there is a chance of leakage of the gas. So there NDRF along with the district level authority, they participated. So all the member of district level authorities, they were present over there. And with that mock drill, they also get trained and aware. So whatever the preparedness has been done and whatever the implementation of that drill, so that is also covered by our district authorities. So I believe they are equally informed and aware about what to do during the disaster management and about the risk mitigation during that.
That's a great effort. I think NDMA must be complimented on this mammoth task. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much.
So my sincere thanks to all the veterans, experts, faculty members who have joined in person and some who participant, and so those who have joined online. And my special thanks to the participants who have taken keen interest, who have done a lot of research work to enter into new fields. The only thing is my sincere apologies because of technical issues where I'm not very competent to handle. We lost some time, and three of our very valuable faculty, important participants, their lectures could not be finished, and we have another lecture, another program starting at 4 o'clock, so we are under time pressure. So I request the three speakers, Madam Ramati, Mr. Kulyat Sharma, and Mr. Samim Mola. We will take these three lectures, these three seminar presentations on Friday, starting at 3 o'clock. So 3 to 4, and whatever lectures we finish, whatever time left, we'll keep it like an open session for discussion, and anything else that we can have like a closing session, and then there's the end of the program. So Dr. Nand Kumar, thank you very much for your valuable participation time. You are the, I think, senior most expert in the system, but of course, your support we always count. Dr. Hemant Haldonekar is a doctor, always on call, and I always depend on him. Dr. S.K. Ghosh, who is here, and he is one of the core organizers of this program in collaboration with HBNI. So anything you want to give the closing remark?
Then actually the main architect and you can say pillar of this course, he's sitting in the middle.
Yes.
And
In half shirt.
you should be thankful to him for organizing such an interesting course as well as so many seminars. We'll have much more in the near future.
So thank you very much. Can we close it now, or any comment from the participants? And I've already given my open apologies for the time lost in technical issues in connecting. Shall we close it now, or any comment, please? Sir, Dr. Kumar, sir, any comment?
Please proceed. You can end the program.
Okay.
All the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And all of you, with your permission, I give my special thanks to our IT expert, Mr. Sunny, who has been all along and interacting with on both the sides, our side and your side. So thank you very much. We close it now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.